On November 1st, Ukraine's Southern Operational Command reported that Russian warplanes had dropped explosives in the area through which civilian ships were routed in the Black Sea during the previous day. Information appeared on Facebook that Russia continues to disrupt civilian shipping routes in the sea, although the route still operates under Ukrainian supervision. These developments follow earlier information on October 26 about the potential suspension of use of the grain corridor. The Kiev-based company Barva Invest reported on the same day that due to the threat from Russian aircraft and sea mines, Ukraine had temporarily stopped using the new trade corridor in the Black Sea. However, the Minister of Infrastructure, Oleksandr Kubrakov, denied this information, claiming that the news about the suspension of civilian ship traffic towards Greater Odessa is false. Suspending the new corridor's operations would have a negative impact on the Ukrainian economy, especially after the earlier collapse of the Black Sea Grain Initiative in July. In response to threats from Russia, in August, Ukraine launched its own trade corridor for food exports. By the end of October, almost 700,000 tons of grain were shipped through it. This is only a small part compared to the over 30 million tons of food products exported previously. Before the full-scale Russian invasion in February 2022, Ukraine exported up to 6 million tons of grain per month. However, shipping routes are not free from dangers. For example, a Turkish cargo ship was damaged by a mine explosion 20 kilometers off the Romanian Black Sea port of Sulina on October 5th. During the hostilities on the Kupyansk-Svatovy-Kreminna line, Russian forces attempted offensives, but according to information from October 31st, no real or confirmed progress in this direction was recorded. Ukrainian sources, including the General Staff of Ukraine, stressed that the Russians had unsuccessfully tried to attack areas near the towns of Synkovki, 8 kilometers northeast of Kupiańsk, Ivanivka, 20 kilometers southeast of Kupiańsk, and Nadiya, 16 kilometers west of Swatov. However, they did not take any action against Łyman. One Russian source reported that the day before, on October 30th, attacks had taken place in the vicinity of Synkovka, Kysłówka, 20 kilometers southeast of Kupiańsk, and Makivka, 22 kilometers northwest of Kreminna, but no information was provided on the results of these activities. Another Russian military blogger mentioned that positional fighting was ongoing in the Serebryanska forest area, 10 kilometers southwest of Kreminna. In turn, Russian sources say that Ukrainian forces took offensive actions on the same line on October 31st, but without success. Russian reports, including those from the Russian Ministry of Defense, mention unsuccessful Ukrainian attacks in the vicinity of Synkovka, Yampolivka, 17 kilometers west of Kreminna, and Dniprov, 7 kilometers southwest of Kreminna. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, 264 civilians have lost their lives as a result of the explosion of anti-personnel mines and other explosive devices. This information was provided by the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces on November 1st via Telegram. Separate data from the State Emergency Services from October 23rd show that the fatalities include at least 14 children. A total of 560 mine-related incidents injured 571 people. Of these accidents, 145 occurred in farmland, making it the most dangerous place for such incidents. Another 125 cases were recorded on roads. In October, on a playground in the Mykolaiv region, a 14-year-old boy was killed and a 12-year-old was injured after a mine explosion. 2 days earlier, in a field in the Kharkiv Oblast, a bomb explosion killed 2 adult men. There were more incidents involving mines. 117 of them took place in household areas, 91 in forests, and 30 near water reservoirs. The discovery of explosives in confined spaces also led to 53 incidents. The State Emergency Service warned that explosives could be hidden in everyday items such as books or toys. She also called for caution and avoid suspicious objects. Due to the presence of mines in a large area of Ukraine, the country's authorities regularly conduct information campaigns about them. Mines pose a threat to almost 1/3 of Ukraine, which is twice the size of Austria. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal indicated on October 9th that approximately 6 million inhabitants of Ukraine were potentially at risk. In response to these threats, the Ukrainian Ministry of Education decided to introduce special courses on safety in mined areas for students in the country. According to Russian sources, Ukrainian troops launched a counterattack near Avdiivka, but no actual or confirmed successes were recorded on October 31st. Russian bloggers specializing in military topics suggested that Russian troops repelled this counterattack near the Avdiivka heap, northwest of the mentioned town. There were differences of opinion between these bloggers on the intensity of fighting heading to Avdiivka. One of them believed that the intensity of activities had increased, while another claimed that it had decreased. On October 31st, Russian troops continued their offensive in the Avdiivka area, achieving some successes. Materials based on geolocation from October 30th suggest that the Russians managed to slightly shift their positions southwest of Avdiivka. Additionally, other such materials indicate Russian military advances southwest of Krasnohorivka, 5 kilometers north of Avdiivka. Military bloggers from Russia claimed at the turn of October 1930 and 1931 that Russian troops were conducting operations in the vicinity of the Avdiivka coking plant immediately north of this town. However, according to one of them, no active actions were taken against the coking plant and the troops were preparing for further actions. Another blogger indicated that the Russians had reached the outskirts of the Avdiivka industrial zone. According to Russian military bloggers, advances also took place near towns such as Krasnohorivka, Tonenke, Severny, Vodyane, and Pervomaiska. It is worth adding that one of the Russian sources criticized others for premature and overly optimistic reports of successes, which suggests some dissatisfaction within Russian news circles in the context of the situation near Avdiivka. The Ukrainian General Staff reported on October 31st about unsuccessful Russian attacks in the areas of Karamik, Stepe, Avdiivka, Tonenki, Severny, and Pervomaisky. It concluded that Ukrainian forces did not conduct any confirmed offensive actions west or southwest of Donetsk that day. In Mariupol, located in the Donetsk Oblast, partisans report increased activity of Russian occupation patrols. The main goal of these activities is to find and eliminate Ukrainian resistance activists in the area between Berdyansk and Mariupol. A spokesman for the guerrilla movement in Mariupol told the Kiev Post newspaper that the Russians had again started searching apartment blocks and conducting door-to-door inspection visits. The number of patrols moving around the city has also been increased. As one of the partisans emphasized, they stopped not only cars, but also people on foot, especially those of typically Slavic beauty. For security reasons, this source remained anonymous. The same partisan explained that when Russian patrols stop a vehicle, they carefully check every nook and cranny of it, from the trunk through the glove compartment to the places under the carpets and seats. They also check passengers' personal items, such as documents and phones. The aim of such an inspection is to find evidence of links with Ukrainian forces or pro-Ukrainian online content. Despite the caution of Ukrainian partisans, there is always a danger of falling into the hands of Russian patrols. However, they assured that they had ways to save their captured comrades, although they did not reveal the specifics of these methods. According to the partisans, when the Russian special services find any traces of pro-Ukrainian activity or links with the partisan movement, the detained person is interrogated. It depends on who made the arrest. If these are the forces of the Donetsk People's Republic, people with pro-Ukrainian content on their phones may be treated aggressively and then subjected to polygraph tests and forced to promise to stay in the city, the partisan reported for the Kiev Post. Mariupol partisans believe that these harsh methods are a reaction to the effective actions of the Ukrainian resistance movement in the areas occupied by Russia. On Wednesday, Ukrainian Marines confronted Russian patrols in recently captured villages on the left bank of the Dnieper River. Russian forces counterattacked for almost an entire week. Both official Ukrainian military sources and social media reported the actions of Ukrainian infantry, who led the attack, carried heavy weapons and supplies, and began building trenches. A video released by the Ukrainian Armed Forces shows infantry moving through swampy areas, sometimes attacked by small arms and mortars, especially in the Krinky area. Social media confirmed the presence of Ukrainian units in the area. A Kherson news channel on Telegram published photos of Ukrainian soldiers operating drones and firing mortars with a caliber of 120 millimeters. Other sources released material showing destroyed vehicles, suggesting that they were the targets of Ukrainian missile attacks in the Kherson Oblast, which resulted in the deaths of over 100 people. Based on reports, various units of the Ukrainian Marines, the 35th, 36th, 37th, and 38th Brigades, crossed the Dnieper River on October 22nd. capturing the villages of Piszczynivka, Podstepny, and Poima near the town of Oleszki. Another unit moved about 25 kilometers along the river, creating a second bridgehead in Krynki. Russian reports from late October indicated Russia had difficulty preparing an offensive against Ukrainian Marines in the Krynki area due to soft terrain and lack of solid roads. The terrain near the Dnieper is difficult to traverse, with the Konka River making it impossible to cross and a forested, swampy landscape along its left bank. Ukrainian forces that advanced south of Konka would find themselves in drier terrain. Ukrainian Marines in the Oleszka and Krynka bridgeheads are preparing for defense, but also conducting patrols to connect the two bridgeheads. According to Russian sources, the situation around Krynki is tense, with Ukrainian soldiers using mines and disrupting the approach of Russian forces. According to the pro-Russian platform Yerikon, the Ukrainian Marines are trying to expand their control over the Krynki area. Former members of the Vagner group continue to move to Ukraine, joining other Russian units. On October 30th, a renowned Russian blogger published a text in a newspaper close to the Kremlin, Komsomolskaya Pravda, where he presented the stories of several former Wagner members who returned to Ukraine as part of various Russian formations. In a quote posted by this blogger, a Russian commander stationed in Kreminna in the Luhansk Oblast noted that many former Wagner fighters are present in his sector, and many of them are opting for new contracts to return to the conflict zone. The blogger also mentioned the presence of about 170 former Wagner members in the Chechen Spetsnaz unit called Akhmat, which is part of the Kamerton unit. According to reports, some of Wagner's former fighters decided to sign contracts with the Rosgvardia. Others joined volunteer units, and still others became part of regular Russian forces. According to information, a Ukrainian HIMARS missile attack on October 29th led to the destruction of an entire battalion of soldiers from Chuvashia. On October 31st, the Chuvashia Telegram channel reported that the 1st Battalion of the 1251st Motorized Rifle Regiment had suffered losses in excess of 120 soldiers who were killed or wounded following a HIMARS missile attack on their convoy at an undisclosed location in Ukraine. Both the mentioned Telegram channel and other Russian opposition media emphasized the silence of the Chuvash regional authorities on this issue, drawing attention to the attempts of many Russian regional authorities to hide the true scale of Russian losses in Ukraine.